I want to discuss a very, very nice topic today. It's a topic that we're gonna go into some theoretical games. We're gonna do some thinking. We're gonna do some walking through and some ideas, and I think that's gonna be quite nice. So yeah, don't worry. That thing is not gonna get any. It's not gonna be any scammy or it's not gonna be any crazy thing. But I think it's gonna be very straightforward. I'm gonna actually do a screen share so you can see this, and yeah, I'm gonna have very cool tip at the very end. So yeah, stay until the very end, as always. Good. So let's get started. And that's always where the cut is afterwards for the recording, so that yeah, all this time when people come in, you get to ask questions afterwards, but the people in the recording, they don't. So let's discuss. Let's say we are 30 years old and we want to retire. How many Bitcoins would we need? And obviously, it would work for any kind of cryptocurrency that you believe in. That's always the key thing, right? That you believe in. I pick Bitcoin because it's the mother of all cryptocurrencies, so it kind of makes the most sense to use that. But yeah, that's basically the fundamentals. And I'm going to use a screen share because it's going to be a bit mathematical. Don't worry, it's not going to be confusing. Quite basic, simple math. I'm rounding a lot, but it's still going to be nice, and we can have some really, really nice theoretical ideas walking through. So let's go into the screen share and let's have a look in how this works and what I mean with this. I hope you see the screen share. Drop me a quick line in the chat if you do. It should be working. And you should only see a few things at the moment. I'm scrolling and I have a few tabs, so you're not getting confused. And basically, this is a pure basic math thing. And I'm on purpose not using any currencies here because that way we can use it in dollars, in euros, whatever you do. I'm just assuming it's dollars at the moment, US dollars, but you can pick whatever it makes you comfortable. And so what we're basically trying to do is, so let's say we're 30 years old and we need to get $5,000 a month. That's before taxes, so depending on where you live, you might get to keep a lot of that. You might have to pay a lot of that. If you pay no taxes, then 60,000 a year, that's quite a good income. That's quite nice. And obviously, if we use a very, very safe route, so let's say we have all those Bitcoins and we ask ourselves, I want to retire, then the big question is, well, how many Bitcoins do I need? And if we use the super, super safe route, then basically what we need to be able to do is, with how many Bitcoins we have, we need to be able to cover the $60,000 a year. Now, here's a big downside. At the moment, and that's actually where my new company is going to be in, at the moment, you cannot really get passive income out of cryptocurrencies because cryptocurrencies or crypto assets in general hardly ever generate dividends or hardly ever generate returns. Now, there are ways in the future to do this, and that's exactly the route that I want to go because obviously I'm in a very similar situation. I sit there and I have assets in cryptocurrencies. And for me, I constantly have to kind of play around with this stuff. Do I sell them into fiat? Do I keep them? How do I get dividends from that? How do I get passive income from that? And yes, there's a lot of scammy ways out there. I don't want to use those. I want to use legit ways. And there are legit ways. And this is the direction that I want to go with the new company. Bit of a spoiler alert here. I'm not going to go into much more details. We will be releasing quite some updates on this month, though. And so, okay, let's say in this very, very safe scenario, I have those 60,000 that I need in a year. Then the question is, okay, so what can be my annual return? Let's say here I pick 6%, which is, I think, a realistic number. It's not necessarily low. It's not necessarily high. You can definitely get higher returns. But let's use just 6%, so it's very, very easy. So the math is simple. What I need is I need a capital of $1 million. Now, obviously, I would need to change those $1 million into not crypto assets, because in crypto, I couldn't be getting those returns. Bitcoin, for example, doesn't cash flow. So that's obviously one of Warren Buffett's biggest criticism of crypto, and I do understand part of that. But so in this case, right, so I would need $1 million. Right now, if I'm 30 years old, I would need $1 million in Bitcoin. I could sell those. I could buy any kind of cash flowing asset. Could be real estate, could be dividend, it could be bonds, could be stocks, could be peer-to-peer lending, whatever you have that cash flows, and you generate an average of 6%, which is doable. And well, at the end, you would be getting 60,000 pre-tax, obviously, within a year, 5,000 a month. So simple math. If we assume the Bitcoin price, and I'm just using $8,000 just to be super, super simple, then what you would be needing is 125 Bitcoins. So if you have 125 Bitcoins right now, and you would want to retire with $5,000 a month, well, that's very basic math. I think there's no secret around this, very straightforward. Yeah, I think that's no secret. But so here, this is where it's really boring, because basically that's a very boring math, and I'm kind of starting with this route because it's not really exciting, because the exciting part comes when we talk about this asset here. Well, we talk about selling it all right now, but we don't have to sell it all right now. We could sell it along the way. We don't have to sell everything right now. This is just the route we're taking here. That's the really boring route. And so what I want to work out here, I have two scenarios where we are working out selling these assets along the way. And so now this is where mind games come in, because obviously we have this super volatile asset, and it's very difficult to predict where this thing is going to head to, or how this thing is going to move, or what's going to happen, right? So this is really difficult. And so what I want to do here is I want to just kind of play some theoretical games. I want to strategize and theorize. And I have a worst case and a best case scenario, and you're going to understand why. And so let's start with the worst case scenario first. And in this worst case scenario, basically what we have is, because at the moment we don't have a cash flowing asset, so I cannot use any kind of dividends at the moment, so I can only use what I have here. So let's say I'm 30 years old, and let's say I'm dying at the age 80. Now, this is a pure example, so I need 50 years that this non-cash flowing asset is basically generating income for me. And so basically I have 600 months that I need to take care of. And this is now where it gets really interesting, because I need to kind of calculate, well, at the price of 8,000, and this is basically what I'm trying to do right now, is, well, how many months can I last depending on what the price is and how many Bitcoins do I sell a month? And so the math here is very simple. Depending on what the price is, and I'm just using an average of 8,000 right now because it could go lower, it could go higher, we don't know. So it just depends, and that's now the tricky part. The trick here is you're not allowed to sell how much you need every month. You need to be selling a fixed amount of your assets, because otherwise you're betting on the price of Bitcoin. But you can't be doing this. You can only be betting on having a certain amount of Bitcoin and needing it for 600 months. Does that make sense? So obviously the price is how much you're going to be able to spend within a month. So if we're using a price of 8,000 and you have 0.1 Bitcoin right now, then what you would be having over the next 600 months is around $1 each month. Well, not much. So with one Bitcoin at this price, selling 1/600th every month, you would have around $13 every month. With 2 Bitcoin, it's 27. With 10 Bitcoin, it's 133, and so on and so on and so on. So obviously, we're getting to a higher number than if we were to sell all the Bitcoins right now. And the reason why we're getting to 300, and here we are getting to 125, is a couple of things. It's because we don't generate income from Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a non-income generating asset. And the other thing, we are fixing the price at 8,000. So looking at this very simple number, how do we get to the 4,000 per month? So that's just basically the assumption that I have here. If I want to make 4,000 a month, I need to have 300 Bitcoin. Why? Because I need to have around 2 Bitcoins every month at this very rate. Now, obviously, if Bitcoin goes up, then I would have more. But this is my fixed rate. So obviously, this could be lower depending on the price. But all I would be able to withdraw every month is 1/600th of my Bitcoins. So here, you can see the formula here. It's always divided by 600. So that's the problem. And obviously, the longer I live, so the more months I have here, the less I have here. Now, obviously, the higher the price goes, well, the more I get every month. This is a very simple formula. So if you can live with $1,000 a month and you fix the price at 8,000, then you would only need 100 Bitcoins. And so the major downside here is, and we're just kind of assuming a worst case, that Bitcoin over the next couple of years doesn't really move much up or down on average. So it might go down, it might go up. So we might see, and don't forget, we're talking about 50 years here. So yes, in between, Bitcoin might go up to 100,000, but then afterwards it might drop again. And at some point it might get close to worthless, right? So we need to kind of always use an average here. But so now we can use an interesting formula. And then suddenly you will see, and this is obviously a best case. So don't get me wrong here, this is the best case. So here we have the safe route. Safe route means you have 125 Bitcoin, you sell them all straight away, you put them into cash flowing assets where you have quite some realistic income. You kind of equalize inflation with appreciation of your assets, and all you're focusing on is the cash flow. Now you have this worst case. Worst case just means you fix Bitcoin at the price right now, and you're always selling whatever amount of Bitcoins you have, divided by 600. Don't sell it for the price that you would be needing right now, because then you would be draining your wallet so much, because that just doesn't work. Because if Bitcoin is low, then you would be withdrawing way too much out of your pocket. If Bitcoin goes up, you need a bit less. So then that's not a good idea. But so now we have a very interesting formula. And the formula is, well, what if we assume that Bitcoin goes up? Right? And so now this is obviously a very optimistic case, and this is really, really, really best case. And so I just kind of want to give you a bit of dreaming, right? That's all I'm trying to do here. And then you need to set your own parameters here. I can send you this entire Excel sheet if you want. Down below in the video, I have a link. That's actually the special that I have. You're going to get a notification every time I post a YouTube video. That's the only thing you're going to be getting. There's going to be no newsletters, no nothing. You're only going to be getting information on when there's a new YouTube video. And I'm going to be sending you this Excel sheet. So link is down below. You can sign up, and you will be getting this Excel sheet. So that's just a quick small heads up here. So let's kind of play a small scenario here. And let's assume that we are very, very bullish on whatever cryptocurrency we are betting, right? So in this case, we're using Bitcoin. And we just say we believe over the next 10 years, this thing is going to go up, and then we're going to see, because predicting anything further than 10 years is going to be really, really, really difficult. And so what we're doing is, because most of our expenses right now are still in fiat, we need to sell all the time our cryptocurrencies, but then we don't sell them all straight away. We only sell them for the year. And so this is basically what we're doing here. So we assume year one right now we have Bitcoin of 8,000, and all we're doing is we're using a very, very subtle doubling every year. And this is actually quite, actually you think this is very aggressive. It's not really 100,000 Bitcoin in 5 years. I mean, this sounds crazy today, I understand it. But there's some, like if you watch my video on stocks to flow, then you will know that actually Bitcoin could be at 100,000 next year, right? I'm not predicting that. I'm just using mathematical models here. And so basically what the model here is that until year 10, we are at 900,000, and then we would have 40 years of Bitcoin being at $1 million, or we would be selling or something. So that's just the assumption here. And I understand this is completely crazy, and this is very, very moon talk, and I totally get that. But so just look at what actually happens to the formula here. Now the formula here is we're not selling it all. We're basically doing a mix of the worst case here and the safe case. And then that's what happens, what's really, really interesting. Because here, what you can see is how many Bitcoins do you need within this year in order to fulfill your $5,000 or $60,000 a year, or $5,000 a month. So in the first year, you'd need the most, because Bitcoin is still the lowest. You need 7.5 Bitcoin. In year two, it basically halves, and you are at 3.8 Bitcoin. That's just rounded, so it's actually 3.75, but it rounds to the first digit. And then you have 2.4. It's not exactly doubling. I'm just kind of using easy numbers here. And then it gets to 1.2 Bitcoin, and now you're at 0.6, of course. And now it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And then obviously, if Bitcoin really gets to 1 million, and again, that's very hypothetical, but I just kind of want to show that to you. And these were one of the very early calculations that I've done for myself, just kind of for me to see probabilistic, does this make sense to look into this asset class? And this was actually a very, very similar calculation I had done a couple of years ago for myself to understand what should be my goal, how many Bitcoins do I need, or what would be a very great scenario if this works out. Now, this is not my only bet, but I'm just saying. So obviously, if I can just add these numbers together, it gets really, really interesting, because it's actually not that high. It's actually only 18.6 Bitcoin. So it's around $150,000. That if, obviously, and this is a very big if, right, this entire calculation here of any asset class that you have would go up. Now, I'm a very big believer that this asset class of Bitcoin can go up dramatically. I really believe so. And this would be very, very, very nice, and obviously it's very optimistic. Don't get me wrong here. If this doesn't work out, then yeah, that's great. That's fine. I'm making other bets as well, if you want to call it this way. But these are just some of the calculations that I have. So if today you are in this lucky group of having $150,000 in Bitcoin, then and this works out, well, then great, congratulations. You are basically in the retired class if you want to. I'm not sure if you really want to, because you're going to be bored shitless. But well, congratulations. And obviously, you always have the super safe route. In this case, if you are a millionaire, then well, you can definitely, and you don't believe in crypto, then well, you should definitely have some ways. And if you are the super pessimistic person, then well, you would be talking about 300 bitcoins here that you would be needing. Obviously, that's a lot more than 2.4 million at current prices. That is my calculation here. I would be very interested to hear what you think. Am I missing anything? Obviously, I totally understand. I have the super safe route. I have a bit of the worst case and a bit of the best case route, if you want to call it. The key thing is in retiring on cryptocurrencies, not to withdraw a fixed amount in dollars, because you would be draining your wallet too much. You have to withdraw a fixed amount of Bitcoin, or a fraction of Bitcoin. And that's the trick. So at the moment, withdrawing half a Bitcoin would get you $4,000 a month. In 10 years' time, it might give you $500,000, right? But that's the very, very key thing, or the very key idea in all of that. Don't withdraw, don't fix the income that you're withdrawing on dollars. And so you can calculate this yourself, obviously, but depending on the price. Yeah, these are just some of my thoughts. These are the ideas that I look at when I say, hey, what should be some of my target numbers? What should be something I would be looking into? Yeah, I like when things are achievable, when things are doable. I think $150,000 is a lot of money, but I think it is doable. If you're good at saving, if you are good at investing, if you don't fall into those getting rich quick schemes, I think you can do it. And I think that's, well, I think it's a very motivating number, at least to me. Yeah, let me know what you think about all this. Don't forget, I have a link down below. I'm going to send you this Excel sheet if you want to. And yeah, other than that, I would be very looking forward if you subscribe. If you give me a thumbs up for this video, I'm going to have a quick check in the chat and see what's going on there. And I hope I'll see you at the next video. Yours truly, Julian.